First, I want to just talk about the fact that before I talk about a review or break it down, it's interesting now because a lot of the movies and what's been polarizing in pop culture right now is the talk coming out of Martin Scorsese and Coppola's mouth about the fact that comic book movies are like trash or they marginalize them. And yet now we have this comic book movie, Joker, which I don't know if, other than the fact that it has a direct association with it's an iconic Batman villain, you could literally, if nobody had ever heard of the Joker, this movie would have just been a movie about a mentally ill person who finally cracks. And the fact that I don't know if people know what to make of that. I think their experience with the Joker, most recently Jared Leto, has either been over the top, cartoonish, or within reference to within context and juxtaposed with Batman, as we've had with the iconic performance of Heath Ledger. So it's asking more of the audience than just to sit back and entertain. Now, nobody would argue that the Christopher Nolan's Batman movies are a piece of high art, that they're pretty special in that regard. All the artistry involved in it, and for us to have 10 years later a reimagining of what the Joker would be like, minus all the mystery that makes the Joker interesting, is something to kind of like take a look at, because I think there's something to be said for mystery in terms of maniacal villains, especially the Joker. The mystery is part of his appeal. But when you break it down to an origin movie, and you insert these incredible actors, Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck, the titular character, it makes it something else, and it makes it something uncomfortable. And I don't think anybody would say any of the previous iterations of Joker would make them uncomfortable, because this person is so grounded in reality, because I think we see that, or don't see to the point, that there are people on the margins, and people that feel on the margins even if they're not, but people on the margins who, no matter what happens in their life, they're just constantly kicked, literally, figuratively, at every turn. And to distill their place in life to a lack of effort or willingness to try is really kind of marginalizing mental health and the people that have to deal with that chasm every day of getting up and facing those realities. I myself have faced depression most of my life. It's never manifested in a way that I wanted to hurt people, but it's definitely manifested in destructive ways, and or can manifest in destructive ways. At the very least of self-effacingness or anger or self-hate, anything like that. But with this Joker, and Todd Phillips did, I think, a tremendous job in this. We're talking about what happens when a person gets not just one bad day, which is kind of the tagline for a movie, but day after day after day. Every person has a breaking point. And I think one of the things that polarizes the people in this movie, polarizes the people that are watching this movie. Some people really love it, which I really love this movie, and I think some people either don't like it or genuinely hate it. Maybe because it makes them feel uncomfortable, and maybe because they can't empathize, because they really don't understand that level of the depths in which the soul can sink when it's been abandoned by society. Now, this has a lot to say about classism in America, and it's something important, but it's not an easily digestible film. It asks the audience to, proactively engaged in the content in front of them, and that content is uncomfortable. For my part, it's a slow burn, and I'm thrilled that Joaquin Phoenix did this. And I would, even though I just got done talking about the different Jokers, I wouldn't no more compare this Joker to any of the other previous Jokers, because this is more like a case study and a character study than it is the emergence of the villain that we all all know, not necessarily love, but we all know. And I don't want to say that he becomes a hero. He's not a hero. You could say he's an anti-hero or whatever, but he speaks to a voice of the people in terms of that. I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. And I think some people can latch onto that and some people can't. Now, I'm not going to canonize the Joker, but the way this movie is shot, the way it's paced, and the way it's edited, is especially in the time period was where there's no cell phones or social media. It's just kind of like the grittiness of New York. What's not New York, but it's Gotham. But New York is the stand-in, and it definitely borrows from King of Comedy, as you've heard. By the way, watch King of Comedy. That's a great freaking movie. I love King of Comedy. And this movie also has Robert De Niro in it and Zazie Beetz. And Robert De Niro is kind of a spearhead for the ridicule that Arthur Fleck has been experiencing. I love the cinematography in this movie, but I love more what this movie has to say in the way Todd Phillips says it. Now, Todd Phillips is known for his comedies, and I always think that a person who comes from comedy, whether they're an actor or a director, can make a transition into drama because essentially comedy is tragedy to a certain extent. It can be the manifestation or the response to feeling damaged and empowering yourselves to project that. So for him to make that transition was easy for me to see. I'd like to have a debate with somebody about why they don't like this. There's killings in this movie, and they're brutal, and I think they're initially reactionary, and then it's deliberate, and those calculations by Arthur Fleck are disturbing because, and I think the reason they're disturbing is because the time where we're living in with gun violence and people acting out on feeling hatred or marginalized and taking lives to act upon those feelings really hits home for a lot of people. It hit home for me in a more personal way, and I thought it did a really wonderful job of making Gotham a character because it's leaning on gritty 1970s 80s New York. And I like the fact that this is a DC movie that doesn't technically exist in the whole extended DC universe. I don't know where it would fit. Now, you could shoehorn this and make it, I mean, they definitely, dovetails into the, the kind of origins of Bruce Wayne and Batman. But I would like to see this as a one-off. I know there's a temptation to make a lot of money off of this because it's making a lot of money. So it's got something to say, and I think that's what bothers people. It's a piece of art that's technically a comic book movie that has something to say, and we should all listen. But I almost know I'm talking to deaf ears, but Warner Brothers, if you're listening, you're watching, you're probably not. I really hope this is a one-off. It would maintain it being special. When it becomes something that requires Batman to be involved in it, then it becomes something entirely different. This movie's got a lot of surprises in it. It's a slow burn. It's not an action movie. It's a character piece. It's very depressing and it's sad. And I don't look at Arthur Fleck as a hero, but as a case study in maybe how we should reevaluate the way we treat people and how we have to prop ourselves up by marginalizing or talking bad about other people. It's an interesting movie. I really think you should check it out. I mean, I can't promise you that you'll like it, but it is art. It is real art. Even if it borrows from other movies that it's paying homage to, it's art, and you should go into it with the possibility that you will feel uncomfortable and you will not like it. It's okay not to like a movie, But it's important to make the distinction that just because you like it doesn't mean it isn't a quality film and doesn't deserve your attention. Not everything that we watch or go to the movies or stream or consume has to be easy on us and entertaining and necessary distraction. And I think that gets to the point maybe of what Scorsese is saying. And at one point in time, he was a producer on this film. Cinema still exists and still is alive, and I think at its highest form in art, it is both can be entertaining and have a message, and be a place for artists to collaborate. But we shouldn't just dismiss it because it isn't, a blockbuster movie or a Marvel movie or, has Disney attached to it. I love Disney. I love Disney movies. I love Marvel movies. But it's okay to, swim outside of the stream once in a while. It might broaden your horizons. Go check out Joker. It's in theaters now. It probably will be because it's making a boatload of cash. You could watch this at home, and if you want to watch it at home, I definitely say watch it at home, but just watch it. My name's Chris, and thank you for watching this review of Joker.